I now invite Mr. Mark Burford to deliver the occasional address. Mark Burford is a principal in the Nous Group's strategy and public policy practice. He has over 20 years' experience advising and solving complex policy problems for governments in many areas of public policy. He has worked at senior levels for state and Commonwealth governments on a diverse range of issues. Most recently, Mark was Senior Advisor to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Education, with a special focus on vocational education, higher education and intergovernmental reform. In that role, he was instrumental in establishing the Review of Australian Higher Education, named the Bradley Review, setting up Skills Australia, and the development of the COAG Productivity Agenda Working Group, the Vocational Education Reform Agenda. Mark's advisory role with the Deputy Prime Minister was time limited by mutual agreement, and he has now returned to consulting. Mark has a Master of Commerce in Economics from the University of New South Wales and a Bachelor of Art with Honours in Politics from Flinders University in South Australia. Please welcome Mr. Mark Burford.
Thank you, Deputy Chancellor. And congratulations to all of our graduates here today and to family and friends here to celebrate what's a great achievement and a great day. Speaking of achievements, from the height of some of the heels that I have seen on some of the female graduates, I wonder whether there shouldn't be an extra award, at least for some graduates today, for actually managing to get up and down from the podium. Anyway, look, I'm probably the worst qualified person here today to actually speak to you at a graduation ceremony because I've got an admission to make. I never attended my graduation ceremony, either one, for my undergraduate arts degree at Flinders or for my graduate economics degree at the University of New South Wales. I never attended those graduation ceremonies. It was for the parents and grandparents out there, it was a kind of a 70s thing. You know, you didn't take authority too seriously. Sort of cocked your nose at that kind of thing. But actually, it's something that I regret to this day, that I didn't take part in those ceremonies, because they're pretty important. And I've been thinking about this a bit recently, sparked by the death of my father a couple of months ago. My father lived he was 92 when he died, a long and fulfilling life, and he used his skills in engineering to build a business, to support a family, to take part in community life, and to give his kids, there were 4 of us, 3 brothers and me, to give his kids new opportunities. Obviously we were sad at his passing, but in the right kind of way and in a good way. And his passing caused me to pause and think about the things that take place in a family life. Like the times that you did the right thing and the wrong thing by your parents. I guess everyone here has got a story they can tell about doing the right thing and the wrong thing by their parents. Well, one of the sort of little wrong things I did was not give my mum and my dad, my brothers and my friends a chance to celebrate the moment that you're celebrating today. I was speaking at the funeral, at my dad's funeral, to one of his close friends, and this guy said to me, "You know, your dad was so proud of all of you boys. He'd always have news for us about your school, about your time at university, about the job you'd taken." For me, it was always about some silly politician that I'd found myself working with. He had lots of stories and thoughts about those politicians. About your job, about what you were doing, about the trouble you were getting into. That was the sort of stuff that he would talk with his friends about, but I never knew that. He was right to be proud, of course, not just proud of my 3 brothers and me, but for what he and my mother had done. Look at the 6 of us. We're a small family example, growing up in Adelaide we were, of the value and the power of skills and knowledge and a commitment to education and taking what you pick up in education through into your life. I'll tell you a bit of a story about my family. First, there was my father, son of a beekeeper, self-taught engineer who'd had the opportunity to learn by doing in the Air Force and then in the fledgling air industry post-war. For many, learning by doing was the way education happened in that period from the Depression through to the war and the early post-war period. That was the way that happened then. He took a risk and decided to set up his own small business. It was a risk, but he had the faith that what he'd learned on the job, the skills he'd learned, would enable him to produce a product that people wanted and would pay good money for, and that it would create a livelihood for his family. He was right. By the way, what he was into was small model aeroplane engines. That was his thing. And if anyone wants to Google or look up mAAA.com.au, you can follow all sorts of stories about my father's life in the model aeroplane game. Anyway, like I say, he was right. It was a success. And my mother, trained in a private business college, was the company manager and bookkeeper. Then came my oldest brother, also self-taught. He went into the family business and learned again on the job. He got to the end of high school, but he didn't go on. Later on, in fact, he did return to education and took his studies further. My next brother took out a shipwright's apprenticeship and parlayed that into a long and successful business in the surfing industry. And for those of you surfers out there, you can actually Google Don Burford and find out about his life in the surfing industry, and you're probably surfing one of his boards right now. My third brother, also an apprentice, took an apprenticeship in electronics with the Department of Defence, and he's ended up as a software designer in Vision Systems in Adelaide and Motorola in Chicago. He also went on to further study. He took the opportunity to go on to further study through the University of South Australia and Northwestern University in Chicago. So he took the opportunities that was given to him by those early days as an apprentice. Much later, when the family was riding on the back of what turned out to be that successful small business, I was lucky enough to be able to pursue my interests in politics and economics through 2 degrees. So I was the third in my family in tertiary education and the first in my family to attend university. And all the work that I've done subsequently with those mad politicians that my dad would always ring me up and talk about as a green building developer during some of the time, and my small community contributions, it all kind of links back to the ideas that I picked up in those days at